So welcome back. Now I'd like to spend a little bit of time introducing you to the 7 pillars of giving voice to values. These are the foundational ideas that the whole approach is based upon. These pillars are basically insights or observations that we've gathered from talking to and observing a lot of people who have found ways to act on their values, and also times when they failed to act on their values successfully. And what they capture are the ways of thinking that seem to make it easier for people to act effectively on their values, that seem to enable them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go quickly through the whole 7 set of pillars and introduce you to them. But then throughout the course of this class, we'll have a chance to look at each pillar in a little more depth. But let me give you the overview right now. You'll notice that each of the pillars attempts to answer one of the questions that are very important questions to make you feel more confident and more competent at acting on your values. So let's look at the first pillar. The first pillar is, of course, values. And with this pillar, we're trying to answer the question, what really are values? What aren't values? Is there any common ground for people to talk to each other across what may seem to be different value sets? The second pillar is purpose. This is where we look at the question, what am I really working for? What is important to me? Why and how is my work meaningful? And how can that affect my ability to voice and act on my values? The third pillar is choice. This is at the heart of giving voice to values. It's really asking the question, do we have one? Do we believe we have one? Do we feel that we have a choice? And how can we make it possible for us to feel that we have a choice? The fourth pillar, we call it normalization. But really what it's doing is it's answering the question, is business ethics, our values conflicts, the exception in our work lives or in our everyday lives? Or are they just a normal part of everyday living? The fifth pillar is self-knowledge and alignment. This is my favorite one. This is where we ask and answer the question, am I the kind of person who can do this, who can effectively voice and act on my values? And if I fear I'm not, are there ways that I can help myself feel more confident and understand that I can do this? And what are the ways that we can do that? The sixth pillar is voice. And what we're asking there is, how can I find my own voice? Are there some strategies, some tactics I can use to find that voice, to get more comfortable with that voice, to rehearse that voice, so that it comes more naturally? And then the final or seventh pillar is called reasons and rationalizations. And this is where we identify the typical kinds of objections, the pushback that you might encounter, or maybe that you have encountered, when you've tried to voice and act on your values. And then to talk about, given that these reasons and rationalizations are fairly predictable, are there ways that we can practice responses to them and get more comfortable with that? And we'll have the opportunity to do just that. Now, you may have recognized these 7 pillars. They were categories in the GVV survey that you took previously. And so you've already answered a set of questions about each of these pillars, surfacing your coming in assumptions, your starting assumptions about how you define these terms and how you think about yourself. And over the course of this class, what we're hoping, as you go through each of these pillars in a little more depth, you'll have the opportunity to look back at the way you answered those questions and to consider, to ask yourself, based on what I'm hearing now, based on what I'm learning, based on what I'm practicing, might I come up with an alternative answer to some of those questions? An answer that might make it even more likely that I feel competent and comfortable voicing and acting on my values.